Hi, Louis.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, Joe.
Okay, so now I'm just going to share my screen for a second and just see. Let's just see. Sorry, just bear with me for a second.
Yep, you're all good.
That's
Yep.
pretty.
Can see that?
You can see that?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back and stop sharing. Be your trainer today. Before we go any further, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today. For me, it's the Bunurong people, and pay my respects to them past, present, and emerging. So today will be a session on plant classification and diversity. It is the introduction, so don't worry that you don't know anything or you might know stuff. It's just an introduction. We're just going to take it slow and we're going to explore the wonderful world of plants. So we'll start off with me just sharing my screen to start with. And you should see a PowerPoint. Can you see a PowerPoint there? Thank you very much. Beautiful. So as we said before, it's on plant diversity. And tonight, the session will be pretty much roughly around 40 minutes, and obviously it's online. We'll try to stick to time, but I don't want to, stop people from asking questions or slowing down along the way. So if there's something you want to talk about, please put your hand up. I can see you on the screen, or maybe just call out because not everybody is on the screen. And basically the intended outcome today is that at the end of the session, you'll be able to use a dichotomous key. Don't worry if you don't know what that is yet, to categorize plants. So just some occ health and safety things that we have to go through with all our training sessions. Make sure you're in a nice comfortable chair and that you've got water near you for hydration, and that you're aware of your individual emergency procedures. And we are going to be using a mobile phone a little bit later on in the session. So if you've got one near you, that's awesome. Just make sure you keep it on silent. Okay. So as I said, today we're looking at plant classification. The session will include this PowerPoint. We're going to look at some short videos for some information sharing, and there'll be a short assessment session at the end through the Kahoot platform where we can work out and see what we've learned. And then at the end, we'll conclude and revisit plant classification. We can have some time for feedback and questions, and we'll discuss what we're going to do next. So what I want to do now is just introduce you to the idea of the amazing world of plants and how they have evolved through the years, just through a quick short video. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see and hear this.
All right. Does anyone have any comments on that? For me, I just like that idea that, you know, in nature, everything finds a way, and that, you know, in nature, you have to be strong and you have to evolve and you have to change and you have to adapt to survive. And that's exactly what plants have done throughout the ages. You know, you might be aware that, you know, life on Earth started in the aquatic world. It started in water. And then very slowly, plants evolved and advanced to actually live on land. So we've just got a very simplified timeline of plants throughout the ages. So if we're looking back, you know, around 1500 million years ago, when the first land plants started out of the water, which was algae, they then sort of, you know, developed into mosses and then up to lycophytes. And you can see there on the screen, lycophytes were the first vascular plants. And vascular basically means they had a transportation system within their structure. So they didn't have to be really small. You know, has anyone seen, you know, a moss that's 10 meters high? No, I haven't. It doesn't exist because mosses can't transport water or nutrients from one spot in their structure to another. They're so small, they have to absorb everything through their skin or their roots or their tiny little leaflets. So once vascular plants were developed or evolved, suddenly plants could grow a bit bigger. And then ferns sort of got that little bit further where they could start reproducing through spores.
So hang on, sorry. When you're saying about the moss, but the mosses, can they grow high on a tree?
Yeah, they can. They can grow high on a tree, but they can't actually grow high on their own. So they can grow high on a tree, which is what's termed like an epiphyte, where a plant grows on another plant in another environment, but they can't get any bigger because they don't have that vascular system. Good question, Stace. So after the vascular plants evolved, then they got even more clever. This is the amazing thing about plants, is they're so smart that they went, actually, we need a better way to reproduce so our species survives. So then they started to evolve into have seeds, which is what gymnosperms are, or the common word is conifers. And then pretty much gymnosperms lasted for a long time, and then pretty quickly angiosperms or flowering plants came along, and that is pretty much 80% of the flowering or the plants that we have on our Earth today. So if you just look at a very sort of simple table of the plant kingdom, you know, it moves obviously from left to right, where you've got your mosses and your liverworts. And liverworts are like mosses. They're absolutely tiny. They look like sort of little rubbery bits of leaf that just sort of stick together. And they just grow on rocks and trees and, you know, near riverbeds, near the water. And then you've got your ferns, and then you've got your conifers, and then you've got your flowering plants. And they all have quite different sort of structures and functions. So as I said before, mosses are really small. They're really tiny. They're very simple. They have no true roots or stems or leaves. And they have tiny little leaflets, which is what you can see in that top picture. And they grow in moist shaded areas, and the roots are called rhizoids, and they have tiny little short stems. You know, if you've ever tried to pull a moss off a rock, you know, they come off very easily. And they have no transportation system to carry water or nutrients around the plant. And then you've got ferns. So, you know, ferns can get a bit bigger. So ferns have true roots and stems. They have spores for reproduction. And that's where that vascular system came into evolution. They can transport internally nutrients and water, but they still need water to reproduce. They need to be in a damp soil. And then you've got the conifers, which, you know, are even smarter in themselves, that they have true roots and stems, but they also have a whole sort of seed production system in terms of their pine cones, which contain the seeds. So suddenly they're getting even better at reproducing, so they have a greater chance of survival. And they have very fine needle-like leaves that stay on the tree all year round, so they're not deciduous. And then you've got the wonderful flowering plants that produce flowers. They're called angiosperms, flowers, and bear their seeds into fruit. And these are the largest and most diverse group in the plant kingdom. There's about 300,000 species to date, and they represent about 80% of all known living green plants. But the amazing thing about the plant world is plants are still being discovered. I mean, if anyone's heard of the Woolamai pine, that was only discovered sort of in the last 20 years when a park ranger abseiled down a rock face in the Woolamai National Park and discovered a whole new species. So the amazing thing about plants is they're continually evolving and getting better at surviving in, you know, different climates. Within angiosperms, it gets even more diverse. There are monocots, which you can see with the pictures on the left. They have parallel veins in their leaves. And if you've ever looked at a flower really closely, their flower parts are in threes. So, you know, they might have petals there's only 3 in a row, or they might have stamens, which is a tiny little bit in a flower. There's only 3 in a row. So if you wanted to really get into plant ID, this is what you've got to look for when you're wandering around the garden. And then you've got dicots, which have flowers parts not in threes. So there's often a 5, or they're in a cluster, and the leaves are not parallel. There's usually a network of leaves. And you can even see this when plants are just starting to shoot from the very, very seedling stage, you know, the minute stage that they grow. A dicot will always produce 2 leaves, but a monocot, obviously meaning 1, will only ever produce 1. So then we get into the beautiful world of dichotomous keys. Has anyone ever used a dichotomous key before? We use them in the animal kingdom as well as in the plant kingdom to classify things. And it's just obviously dichotomous meaning 2. It's a simple way to break things down, to classify things, to actually work out where things belong. And it's a very simple way of, you know, scientists, everybody looking at plants and actually trying to work out what that actual species is, or where that plant belongs in what plant family. So that's it to start with. We won't spend too much long on this page because we've got a few pages that are actually the same, that actually we're going to try and classify some plants ourselves. So I'll just move us on to the next page. And what we've got there is a plant. If we start at the top, let's have a little look. So it's either simple or no root system, stems or leaves, or it has true roots, stems or leaves. So we've got the picture at the top and we've got the picture at the bottom. So looking at those 2 pictures, does that have true roots, stems and leaves?
So if you talk about the picture at the top or the bottom?
So they're both the same plant. Sorry, I should have said that. Yes.
Sorry, I
Yes.
thought they were different.
Definitely.
They've got the roots and stems and leaves.
Thank you very much. So it's got true roots, stems and leaves. Then we go down to the next part of the dichotomous key. Does it have cones? Does it have flowers? Or does it have spores? Does anybody know what those tiny
Is that spores on that top one or not?
They're spores. Well done. They're
Yeah.
spores.
Yeah.
So pretty simply, if it's got spores, we move down to the next classification and we know it's a fern. So very quickly, we've been able to classify that that plant is a fern. Well done.
Okay.
So then we move on to the next one. So we've got some, I don't want to give it away, I nearly said it, some things up in the corner there. We know it's quite big. So does it have true root stems and leaves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, well done. Now, does it have cones or does it have flowers?
Well,
Flowers.
Flowers, well done. It's got some nice, big, beautiful flowers. So we know it's an angiosperm or a flowering plant. Now, it's a bit tricky to see the flowers up close, but I put the leaf down in the left corner there. So are the leaves non-parallel veins in leaves or are they parallel in leaves?
Parallel, they look.
Oh,
Yeah.
they look like parallel to me.
So is there a network of leaves between each vein?
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. So what are we talking about?
So
Are they the veins, the yellow parts? Is that
Yeah, so
kind of-
all the lines that you can see on the
Ah.
leaf are veins.
Hmm.
So are they parallel, meaning side by side in straight lines, or are they in a network?
Some look
They
a bit
like they're in
parallel.
straight lines, but they're not obviously not parallel, but they're kind of, they run like a rail line, I guess.
Yeah, they run like a rail line. Yep.
Yeah.
The thing, this is the tricky thing with plant classification. You know, I've been working with plants for a long time and I can walk out into the garden and I can look at a plant and go, oh, I don't know if that's a monocot or a dicot. This one, in fact, is a dicot. It's got a network of veins. So even though it's got veins in straight lines, there are veins in between in each straight line.
Okay. Yep.
It's tricky, but once you get the hang of it, and dichotomous keys get a lot more detailed than this. So this is just to start with. Okay, this one should be a little bit easy. So we've talked about this a bit. So does this have true roots and stems and leaves, or is it pretty simple with no roots, stems or leaves?
Simple.
No.
Simple. It's tiny. It's got, you can see the tiny little leaflets there. This, in fact, is a moss. Well done. And lastly, this one here. Okay, does it have true roots, stems and leaves?
Yes.
Yes.
It does. Now, does it have spores or flowers, fruits and seeds or cones?
I think cones. Looking at it, or
Or do you call it fruit?
Fruit.
Because is it? Yeah.
They got seeds, haven't they?
Yep, they've got seeds. They actually have flowers, fruits and seeds. So
Red
they're
seed.
angiosperms. Then we obviously can't see the flowers of this, but we can see the leaf in the left-hand corner. So parallel lines in leaves or a network vein, non-parallel veins in leaves.
Parallel.
Parallel.
Parallel, that's right. This is a monocot. A palm tree is in fact a monocot. And a lot of people, because they're monocots, actually classify them as grasses because they grow very similar to a grass in terms of their seed heads and their parallel lines. So tallest, one of the biggest grasses in the world.
Mm.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? How do you feel about your...
Actually, I do so when you're saying that like the plants themselves are evolving all the time, is that because like do their seeds mix together? Is that how they evolve into a different plant, or are they?
They don't mix together, but as you could see in that very short little animation, if a plant doesn't have the ability to evolve, it will die. It will die out. So plenty of plant species have died out. So, I mean, plants can hybridize which we're getting into a whole different area here, and reproduce and cross-pollinate. But generally with plant evolution, they haven't mixed together. So conifers didn't reproduce with angiosperms. It's just that the plant itself actually changed very gradually through millions of years to actually be better at survival.
So is that because of climate or?
It's because of climate. It's basically adaptation is because of climate, but also because of environmental factors as well. So plants, you know, which we'll probably cover in another lesson, plants have crazy, amazing defenses and adaptations to protect themselves from being eaten or from sunlight. Like sunflowers actually turn their heads to face the sun as the sun rotates in the sky, as the sun moves through the sky. Some plants actually are able to, if they can sense an insect is attacking them. There's one plant called a Monterey pine that if an insect is starting to eat those leaves, it actually secretes a poison that actually the insects ingest and feel sick and don't like the taste of it and will stop eating the plant, which is
So
just
clever.
it's so clever. It's just so phenomenal. It's wonderful. So yeah, it's evolution through environmental factors and through climate as well. So, you know, with climate change today, you know, plants are continually evolving. I mean, scientists are doing an amazing amount of research on how plants are actually adapting to climate change. The beauty in Australia is we actually have plants that are adapted to a very hot climate. If you've ever looked at our eucalypt trees, you know, they've got a very thick leathery skin, or what we call a cuticle, and that actually stops water loss. So they're very adaptive to a desert environment, and they actually hang down to stop direct sunlight on their cuticle or their surface. So it actually is like a cooling mechanism. So pretty fantastic. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments or anything they'd like to share? Okay, we'll keep moving. So what we're going to do now, we're going to test our knowledge. Now, it doesn't matter if we get things right or get things wrong, but what you're going to need is a mobile phone, or if you don't have a mobile phone, you can just minimize this window and go to Kahoot. And there's going to be a little, what I want you to do for privacy reasons, don't put your full name in your nickname, just put your initials in so I can know who's answered the questions. And I'll just set the Kahoot up now. So when you get to that Kahoot It page, you just have to wait for a code, which I'll initiate for you now. It sometimes takes a little bit. So is everyone on Kahoot It?
Yep.
Okay, so on my screen is the game pin. I can read it out for you if you like. 969 9747.
Oh.
I think that's all of us now, isn't it? Yep, that's everyone. Okay, let's start with the first question. Everyone ready to go?
Yep. Do we just touch it on our phone? That's it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so the one that you think it is, you just put that colour in you just touch it on your phone. Oh, well done. Fantastic.
Oh, you're a good teacher, Soph.
Okay, next
Started at
question.
zero knowledge here.
Not anymore.
Oh, we get scores.
Oh, God.
Oh, well done. Fantastic. Okay, true or false?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it's a
I
tricky
don't
one. That's okay.
I'm guessing that one.
Oh, I don't know. I guess.
Ooh. Okay. We'll have to do a bit more work on conifers, but that's okay. A lot of information to process in one session.
Oh, I'm lost now.
Last question. Well done. Well done, team. That's great. Well done. Yeah, that's just a short sort of, assessment just to see how far we've come. But as I said, this is only the introduction and it's a lot to process. A lot of people don't even realize that plants actually belong to different groups and different classifications, and that conifers are completely different and have completely different systems to flowering plants. But, looking at these sort of plants and how they've evolved and even the different plant groups really makes you think about how diverse the plant world is and how much it has evolved. So I just want to play you this quick video about weeds and how we view weeds and how different weeds are, or plants in general, are pretty amazing. Okay, let's go. Ah, we love David Attenborough.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's awesome. I just love that that little video because it just highlights, and I've probably said this a couple of times, how clever plants are. Like just the fact that, and we're just scratching the surface tonight in terms of plant evolution and plant diversity and everything plant can do. I mean, there's a plant I know of, but the tree's called the firewheel tree, but the seed itself has 2 wings on it. So when you actually throw it in the air, it spins like a helicopter. And this is all to actually, distribute its seed. There are seeds that are, have little hooks on them. So they attach to animals and they attach to our socks as we walk through the bush. So they actually get distributed other places. I can't help but think plants just have brains. They're so amazing, so amazing. Okay. Sorry, I'm not in. So if anyone's got any questions, we can ask questions now. As always, thank you for listening and for being involved in this class today. As always, I'd love feedback, but I have emailed everyone a feedback form. So I'd really appreciate your feedback and what you liked about the session, maybe what you learned, or maybe some things that you'd like to learn, things that maybe sparked your interest. But if you'd like to stay online for a chat, that's good as well, positive as well. The next session in terms of this certificate in horticulture, we look at annuals and biennials and shrubs and herbaceous plants. So as I said, like we've just gone through the very simple plant classification groups. Once you get into flowering plants, then there's a whole other area of classified plants. But has anyone got any questions while we're still here? You're on mute, says.
No questions, but that was fantastic. Like that's, as you know, I'm not much of a gardener, Soph, and I don't know hardly anything about plants, but that took me back to science. I don't know when we would have studied stuff like this, but all those names came back.
I did that.
Yeah, it was really good and just very engaging. For someone that doesn't love plants, I really enjoyed that. It was great.
How can you not love plants?
Oh, well, I think I do now. I do. It's great. No, it was very, very good and really like engaging. You did lots of different things. So I loved it.
Oh,
Great.
that's good. And not that I'm always encouraging people to learn more about plants, but I am. If you ever want to look at another video, there's another David Attenborough video, which we won't watch now. We can have a chat now about seeds that can actually walk. I'm not joking you. These seeds can actually walk. So I'll just hop out of presentation mode. So I'll stop.
I shouldn't say I don't love plants. I just hate gardening. There you go. I love plants. Someone can come and do it for me and make it look pretty.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. I'll just get onto here. How do I? Just trying to get back onto full screen. I'll stop sharing. There we go. Stop sharing. Beautiful. All right. Thank you again. I'll just stop recording and then we can have a informal chat.